Hi, how are you?
Two faces.
Good, thanks.
Christine Boland.
Yes.
I was going to get your name, you know, all of that. Um, just before we begin, the video is hopefully going to be uploaded for marking purposes. Just up to PebblePad, it's a program that we use to mark videos and things like that. That means it might have to go up on YouTube to actually fit in PebblePad. Are you alright with that?
Yes, I'm fine with that, thanks.
Thank you.
One face. Small face. Face bottom right edge.
Um, alright. I'm Andrew.
One face. Large face. Face bottom right edge.
That's my phone speaking. I might turn that off.
Voiceover off.
Alright. So, when and how did you decide to become a teacher?
Well, I think it began when I was a small child. I was the oldest child in the family, and I was a child that loved animals and I liked other people, and I always wanted to be a help to them. Got myself in some situations where I did help, or I thought I helped, but not really, because the adults had to redo everything I had done. When I first started school, I loved it. So I often played being a teacher at home, and all my toys got taught very well. In fact, I was so helpful at school that in the first grade, which was called prep back then, like today.
I was in prep as well.
Yes, but we were doing grade 1 at sums, and I clearly remember the day that the teacher set us big sums to do, like 2 plus 1 and 1 plus 1, and I think there was a 3 plus 1. And I knew how to do them for some reason, so I did them. But the little girl in front of me started to cry, and she couldn't do them. So I crawled under the desk and up beside her and did it for her. And then everybody around me in both the back seats wanted me to, they shoved their books, their slates at me. We had then, not books. And I did them all for the 2 back rows. That was fine. I thought I was being very helpful. And the teacher, when she found out, took me aside and had a little talk to me about how I was not to do the other kids' lessons.
But she saw what you were trying to do, trying to help them.
Yes.
Hopefully she didn't punish you too much.
No, she didn't. She was a nice teacher, so she explained to me how it was not helping to do things for the other children.
That would have been probably more helpful for you to sort of try and teach them.
Yes.
But that sounds interesting.
Well, when I got older and that, I sort of thought about, as you do, what will I be when I grow up? And I sort of sorted out I wanted to be one of 3. And not in this order, actually. I wanted to be a vet because I loved animals. Well, way back when I was late teens, if you were a girl and you went to uni and you blitzed the veterinarian course, it didn't matter, they wouldn't let you work as a vet. You had to be a vet nurse.
Wow.
Which was disappointing, so that was out. The next one was nurse, because my mother was a nurse, and I'd heard all these tales, you know, about nursing, etc. But my mother was against it, because when she was a nurse, they were very poorly paid. Something like £2 a month or something.
Oh.
And they had long hours, you know, and it was pretty hard work, so she didn't want me to do it. That was fine. And then the other thing was teaching, of course, you know, I considered that. And I thought about it and I thought, sounds pretty good. And then in the last year of high school, I was offered a scholarship to Teachers College, which was part of QUT and still is, of course. So I was happy I took that up. So that's how I got to be a teacher.
Well, that sounds interesting. It sounds like you definitely had to think about that quite a bit. But you sort of saw what you were going to do or
Yes,
one of the options that you could pursue early on.
yes.
So that's good. Did you work in more than one role as a teacher over time?
How do you mean, Andrew?
Like teaching different grades, teaching
Oh,
in different
yes.
places and different people.
Yes, I did. For quite a while I was at the one school that I started with. This was in Ipswich, the school. And I started off on grade 3, which I enjoyed very much. And then I was on grade 1. I loved grade 1. And got to think that that was the most important grade in the school, because if you didn't learn everything in grade 1, you couldn't progress.
No, fair enough.
Yes. And at one stage I had grade 5 as well.
That's good. Since it sounds like you've been places.
Mm-hmm.
What about after that? You sort of transferred to helping people with impairments or visual impairments?
Well, that's
Me, for
right.
example?
I got married after that, and I was at home for a while because I have 6 children. But when the youngest one went to school, I wanted to go back. And then I had a good think about it, and I thought, I have 6 children. And I knew there'd be some preparation to be done, and I thought, when am I going to do it? Because some of the children were at high school, some of them were late primary, and here I had one starting too, and I thought, how am I going to help my children and do all the preparation that a good teacher does? And the answer was, stay up all night, which wasn't a good thing to do. I wouldn't be much use in a classroom the next day, I should think.
Well, maybe if you had like 5 espressos, but
And while I was thinking about that, because my children went to Labrador school, and they had started a vision impaired unit, and they were advertising for a teacher aide, and I thought, well, now that might be better to do that, because I would then have time for my children and my job. So I applied and I got the job.
well, yeah. And you obviously taught me Braille.
Yes.
It really got me through the first 7 years, 8 counting prep. Prep's important.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you don't do prep, it's a bit harder because you launch straight into the big sums.
Yes. Yes. Yes, 8 years.
That was fun.
Yes, it was fun. I hope you thought it was fun.
I did. Some days there were the other days where I was really tired and I didn't. That wasn't on you. That was just on life.
Yes, of course.
So, it happens. What do you think made you a really good fit for this profession? I know that you've described yourself as being empathetic and really wanting to help people. Is there anything else? Maybe.
Oh, yes. When you think about it, the first thing, you have got to like children. You have to.
Mm-hmm.
Look, if you don't, it's going to be very hard for you. I think you have to have good general knowledge. You can't teach things that you don't know. You have to have patience. Yes, a lot of patience. And I had quite a few beliefs when I thought about it before I started, and I believed it was pretty important to see every student as an individual, and because everybody has different personalities, different likes and dislikes, and also different abilities. So you just can't lump every child together and see them as one. And I believe you have to be honest with children, should never lie to them, and I carry that through with all my children, because they can't trust you then, and they have to trust you. I believed I didn't want to teach just by standing there and preaching. I wanted to encourage children to have a go at things, and to let them know that if they had a go and it didn't work, and they thought it was a failure,
They still had a go.
yeah, just have another go. Doesn't matter, just have a go.
And it's not like, you know, this is from my experience anyway. You know, even if you failed, you know, it wasn't like it was a test. It wasn't like the teacher wasn't then going to turn around and teach you it again, because
No.
they were. You did. You know, it's not a test.
No, it's not. It's something you want them to learn, so you just, it doesn't matter how long it takes. You just keep doing it until they've got it. And it works with most children anyway. Another thing you need is tolerance. A lot of tolerance. And especially with children that don't have the academic abilities that a lot of other people have. And one thing I always hated, I did not like anybody, a teacher, who exposed a child in class to ridicule or poor jokes, you know. So I knew I never would do that. When I asked questions in lessons, if I knew a child couldn't answer a question or was unlikely to be able to do it, I never asked them the hardest questions. I asked them questions that I knew they could answer. And behaviour problems. Now, you weren't behaviour problems.
I think every child has a little bit of behaviour problems though at some
Oh
point.
yes, of course they do. You were stubborn, yeah.
Well, it could be.
But then I'm stubborn too when I have to be, so
You just have to know when to be stubborn, sort of have a cool head,
that's right.
know how to judge what's going on, I guess.
That's right, you're definitely right. Well, if a child did misbehave, now there are consequences and they should be explained to a child who's done the wrong thing. But first of all, find out if they know why the behaviour is troublesome. Yes. Often small children don't know.
No, they just don't know at all.
And if you explain it to them, they're quite good. They didn't know that and they won't do it again.
Rather than just arbitrarily punishing them and they think the rule's arbitrary and they just act out more because they have no idea why it's even a rule.
That's true.
It happens quite a bit.
Yes,
unfortunately.
It does. But it's also important to make sure they know you don't condone bad behaviour. But even if they do something a bit wrong, you're still going to be there for them and help them when they need
It's not an immediate, you know, you've stuffed up, I hate you now, I've lost all my respect for you.
That's right.
That's just going to make them
Worse.
depressed, angry, and maybe hate you in return. You never know.
Yeah,
You know.
of course. And we all do things wrong sometime or another, even if we don't mean to.
And sometimes, you know, it could be that, or it could be anger, anything, frustration,
Even tiredness.
tiredness.
Tiredness will make you burst out and say something you
That you
shouldn't.
didn't want, like, and you'll look back at that later and go, you know, you feel, as a child, they probably feel guilty.
Yes.
That's my experience.
Yes.
Anyway, you'd often say something, you know, not terrible, but just a little bit shameful, and then you'd look back and go,
Oh,
did I
yes.
really do that?
I know what you mean, because I can remember just little things that you do and you knew you shouldn't do it. And you do feel guilty.
I'm just making sure the camera's right.